Hello and welcome to Joy Wisdom Trust. Abuse numbers have grown enormously. Nothing's changed. And unfortunately, we have a very apathetic view on this. We need to take it more seriously because it's costing us billions and trillions each year to support or firefight, from my point of view. If we put a stop to it, there would be lots and lots of benefits financially as well as health-wise. What we don't seem to understand is emotional issues go hand in hand with mental health and mental health decline. Emotional issues will also cause physical health decline. And if we don't deal with the emotions, it drives the other two, the decline, the internal decline, because again of peptides, chemicals, hormones, and it does affect the DNA. It does affect our cells and how healthy we are or not. Abuse is worse than ever, with 1 in 3 women are now abused. Our rape and domestic violence remains high, and women and children have their personal story of fears. The fallout is misunderstood. The shock, the grief, the PND, PTSD, physical issues go on to cause future health disorders are continuing undetected, underestimated, ignored. Slave trade, people trafficking continues to exist. In Honduras, it was highlighted this week that girls of 12 are pregnant, a common theme of rape in their culture. India and Pakistan rape is underreported and happens every few seconds. The most dangerous place to live if you are a female, according to a WHO official. The apathetic society view must change for direct action and solution support for prevention, stopping the damage and injustice to humanity, draining society. What we've been doing so far, from my point of view, is putting a plaster approach. We are no better today than ancient times with slave trade and the girls and boys exploited with out-of-culture beliefs are part of the problem. It's a global issue, and long-term effects of broken physical, emotional, damaged people are underestimated and cost society billions each year. The cost and numbers continue to grow each year as no direct action or solutions are applied. We firefight. In March 2020, England and Wales stats said 1.6 million adults aged between 16 to 74 years had experienced sexual assault or rape. And this is just England and Wales. If you take this to a global level, you can see how big the problem is. Shock causes anxiety and depression, weariness. It wears us down. Overwhelm, underwhelm, and shut down. It really does affect our energetics that support our physicality, and everything starts to go down like dominoes. If we are living from aggression, rape, and shocking environmental trauma, we can accumulate shock daily from media, one-to-one interactions, and pick up from the supermarket. And fears makes us numb. We then have this shell of soul or shell of life living, and it breaks us at a core. Again, it's like a fog that sort of overwhelms and really takes over. People with depression say they feel that they are in a long tunnel. This is why, because the energetics have collapsed around us and can't support us. I am very passionate about women and children's health. Neglect and suffering continues for women. All types of abuse is accepted as part of life in our society today. And some cultures condition their women to live suppression and repression, handed down as acceptable when it is not. Abuse is a complex and vast subject and has many parts to find. It's a global issue and a cancer within our society. It has raged havoc throughout the ages in both agendas. Historically, abuse has been a core level of power and control. All levels of abuse are still in motion even today, and very little progress has been achieved, even though we have passed laws to protect the innocent. Little judicial outcomes, and victims are perceived to be the cause. We can find it in the home, the school, the office, and the street. And the age of abuse has been going on for centuries. Worse outcomes to be female in different parts of the world. Culturally, we are trapped in ancient beliefs and traditions that continue to condition and brainwash through tribal thinking, religious out-of-date practices. promoting daily abuse to women and children. Essentially, where we are born will dictate our outcomes around abuse, rape, early marriage, and sexual harassment. Logically, we would believe that life and learning would result with a different approach and outcome. We are left wanting in the 21st century, as abuse is just as strong as it was in the 2nd or 3rd century. Approximately 85,000 women and 12,000 men were raped in England and Wales every year. And that's roughly 11 rapes every hour. And that was 2014-16 stats. As you can imagine, those figures have grown tremendously. 2015 stats showed 1 in 3 women worldwide had experienced physical or sexual violence, mostly by an intimate partner, whether at home, on the street, or during war. And violence against women is a global pandemic that takes place in public and private places. It's appalling numbers of suffering applying in the world, and the extent is underreported. Data is misleading at best. Exceptional challenges exist for women and children from abuse. Certain parts of the world, extreme occurrences happen. Perpetrators are not punished and go on to bully and abuse. Physical and mental health issues are inevitable from all types of abuse. Abuse is abnormal, and we really need to start thinking this way. In UK, women are abused every hour. The numbers have gone up. We can have broken and damaged victims live in terror and fear, and human rights is abused. Some take their abuse to the grey. Relationships are challenging when abuse is involved. Self-esteem, will, and choice is reduced. And long-term health damage is unsurmountable and not acknowledged. Apathetic society thinking must change. Data means nothing. Education and therapy solutions are required to help individuals out of the injustice horror they live, to get their lives back from injustice. Perpetrators mirror what they have been conditioned to in home and environment, and they can be victims too. They are taught aggression, bullying, and abuse. Watching porn is conditioning to abuse, and perpetrators may be victims of abuse themselves and don't know any other thinking. Trauma bonded to the act of rape, believing sex, violence, and rape is love. Numb, they need the stimulation of rape to feel. And some of these conditions will be formulated from neglect and from lack of bonding from an early age. One woman told her story, "When he came at me with the machete, I realized it was not love." So we need more education to teach people what abuse is, teach them to recognize the signs of suppression, repression, and control. School, universities, home education is required. And abuse is subtle in its methods. Undermining, grooming a factor. And grooming is used to manipulate innocence in all sorts of ways. The cat and mouse games. Abusers get their kicks out of watching their back break. Ownership, control, and bullying is their goal. They're cowards underneath, vulnerable. Early neglect, lack of bonding can be an underlying factor, and issues from their own youth. And of course, this covers all creeds, status, cultures, and ages. We had Tina Turner as a prime example, who discussed, she wrote a book. She was very brave in writing her book. They went on to make a film of how she was treated with domestic violence and the manipulation that went on. The thing about violence is that causes chronic illness from adverse trauma. It has its roots in cancer, bladder incontinence, diabetes, heart issues, and inflammation, fatigue, exhaustion, and it saps life. It shortens life expectancy. And in the ACE trials of 2007, they identified that adverse childhood experiences, that's what ACE stands for, can shorten life, and went on to cause chronic illness such as arthritis, etc. I had the very good opportunity to work with some terminally ill cancer patients. I asked if I could do some sessions with them, and 6 of them agreed. What I noted from their consultation forms and asking them questions was that they had all come from domestic violence backgrounds. They were either involved in receiving the domestic violence, observing it, or in the environment of that, watching others having domestic violence. And that was very revealing to me. If we could stop abuse, if we could stop domestic violence, people would have better health. If we could help to treat them, to remove the emotional impacts, they would then go on. In a lot of these cases, it was in childhood for each of these cancer patients. The other story here I've got here about the refugee, a practitioner of DARE had the opportunity to work with a woman refugee from Africa, and she had been 4 years at this hospital. She'd been through every department. They could not help her. She was still very, very traumatized, etc. She didn't speak English, so there was no interaction or conversation. The woman came in, she lay down on the bed. We knew that she had been gang raped for many months and her children had been made to watch. Physically, she was a broken woman and she had lots of issues with bladder incontinence and gut issues and so on. The practitioner worked with her using her DARE methods, getting the trauma and shock off her. The woman felt in the body, you could feel in the body her starting to relax. She only had 2 sessions with this lady. From her background, she would have needed at least 10 sessions. 4 years she'd been through every department. Bladder can be a huge issue for women from rape. Of course, as we remove the emotions, etc., the bladder can then return to normal. And we have done this with people. We hold a lot of fear and trauma in our organs. With the second session, the client walked into the room and smiled for the first time. They hadn't seen her smile before. She was standing taller. She was standing straighter. DARE really does help with self-esteem, self-confidence, and allowing us to heal these terrible injuries that we have endured. So one statistic in adverse childhood experience, the ACE trial reported, women who'd faced 3 types of childhood adversity had a 60% greater risk of being hospitalized with an autoimmune disease as an adult, such as ME or chronic fatigue syndrome. And similar links existed between childhood stresses and adult heart disease, diabetes, migraines, irritable bowel disease. And suffering 6 categories of early life stress shortened one's lifespan by 20 years. What a difference we could make to people's lives and their longevity if we can reduce these impacts. One of the very sad things is that very often abuse will start when women are pregnant because the perpetrator feels pushed out, they aren't the center of attention, and of course they have their own vulnerabilities, as we've talked about. And many a woman is punched while she is pregnant. That isn't going to do her or her baby any good. I would really like you to send me your stories and share experience of help. You can send text, email, video, audio messages. So we've learned a lot about the elements that are not there to support women from my point of view. Looking at some of the questions were about children who have been affected. Looking at it from the bigger picture, if we can help women and support women and reduce the distress of women in maternity and from abuse, we are going to have healthier and happier children. So we're going to be slowing down the issues that children are living with, and certainly depression that can come from the womb. It's natural and logic that follows through that if a woman is depressed in pregnancy, then her child is going to be formed from that. And we really need to take that on board. So by helping to reduce the depression of the woman, supporting the women in pregnancy, miscarriage, etc., or from abuse, then we have a better chance of helping children and stopping the decline and ongoing mental health issues that are growing every day. If you're interested in Joy Wisdom Trust, what we stand for, if you want to help, if you would like to get involved, or even take part in some of the programs, please contact. Our website, as you can see there behind me, is www.joywisdomtrust.org. Share your stories and contact for more information. I thank you for your time.